I'm Joey Carbo, play guitar and sing and do keyboards and noise shit production for WOORMS. And WOORMS is from Baton Rouge, half of us, and New Orleans, the other half, kind of halfway in between.
Yeah.
And the other guys are Aaron Polk and Ben Michon and Miguel Rincon. I know it sounds like I don't know the dudes in the band, but that's the other three guys.
Yeah. How long have you been doing that?
WOORMS, fuck. Not good with time at all. That would be, I'd say 8 years, 7, 8 years.
Okay. Not a whole lot of time, and y'all have amassed a strong following.
I hope so. I mean, it's kind of, yeah, it takes a long time, man.
Well, it was a long time coming. I hate when people say things like, "Oh, what does overnight success feel like?"
Yeah, right.
No, you just weren't there for the decade that preceded it, you know. So
yeah,
I get it, but I mean, respect nonetheless, you know. When you were coming up, when you were real young, and I asked this because of the music style that's coming from WOORMS. What did you listen to? Was it as extreme? Was it as
no? Not at all.
There's a lot of depth. There's a lot of layers. I'm sure a lot of people are going to go seek it out if they don't already listen to WOORMS and be able to understand what I'm talking about. But it's a multifaceted sonic experience, man, honestly.
Miguel says that I sing like a country singer, like as far as WOORMS goes, I never thought of it that way at all, but he's probably more right than wrong. I've also never been told that, but I doubt the first heavy stuff I remember ever hearing, I'd have been very small. It would have been from my uncles and would have been like, I remember him giving me Rush 2112 and I could never figure out what was supposed to be good about it. But I mean, I was probably 4.
Okay.
And then like Ozzy, all the Ozzy stuff, and that was all right. And then like stuff on the radio, I guess like AC/DC was heavy to me, and I remember liking that. But the first time that I realized music, and I mean, there's an instance, and I'm not gonna forget it. And I know I wasn't even in grade school yet, and there's no reason to go into it. But from context, I know I was younger than 5 years old. Yeah. Well, I heard Big River. It's Johnny Cash, and when he says that, it was the line, "I'm gonna sit right here until I die," and so he's crying in the river. And this woman has left him, but he says, "I'm going to sit right here until I die." And I remember I started crying. And someone asked me why. And I said that, the song is the song. And to this day, like there's songs that'll make me cry, but it, like in that instance, whoever it was, their reaction was, "What's wrong?" But it wasn't, there was nothing wrong. I felt great. Like nothing had ever made me feel like that.
That is super interesting, yeah.
And my first thought was, one day I'm gonna learn how to make someone cry. Yeah. Like from power. Like I don't know how to explain it. That's how it felt to me. It was like he had the power to do this to me, and I gotta figure out how to do that.
I think it's the other way around. I think you had the capacity to feel such depth.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
And I think that comes with the creative. That comes with the person that's passionate about music or whatever it is. Like somebody could look at a painting and cry.
Yeah, right.
And they might have a thing for art, but I think that was a clue at an early age that everybody missed.
That makes more sense than what I said. Yeah, right. Because it could have been, it could have been anything. It could have been a sunrise and I'd be a photographer.
Yeah, other people could listen to that Johnny Cash song and have the same reaction as you did to Rush 2112.
Right, yeah.
It's just to each his own, But that's funny that you didn't get what was so hot about Rush, but you were 4? Like you're not supposed to get. What are you supposed to get at 4? You know what I mean?
Oh, my uncle was convinced, man. He gave me the tape, and then he would ask me if I listened to it and like did you just check this part out or whatever. And I think we were far enough in age, but also close enough in age that half the time I was treated like a peer, I suppose, as we got older. So yeah, like. If he's 13 and I'm 7, then of course I want to watch this gory fucking horror movie that he's in,
Well, I'll tell you this too. I mean, and people in the South know what a paran is. I mean, your paran is He's not concerned with making sure you make it to school Monday. He's not concerned with your bedtime. He's not concerned with your nutrition. He's not concerned with none of that shit. He's not your parent. He is a parent-like figure, right? So it's somebody that you pick your bad habits up from and shit like that. So it's a special place. That's a special role. So I could totally see that, you know?
Yeah, but no, as far as the heavier aspect, that would have came about more in like Sonic Youth. Let's see what else. Soundgarden for sure. Like I can remember waiting. That would probably be the first heavy music that I felt like changed my life in a way. Was Bad Motorfinger, and I remember it was, for whatever reason, I remember where we lived and everything, but while I was waiting for the bus, I guess it was Headbangers Ball was what do they call it when TV was a thing? Rerunning at that time of the morning while I was waiting for the bus. So for like, you know how there would be a new song and they would, like, let's say 7 a.m. every morning at 7 a.m. they were going to play that video. Yeah. So I knew that, so I had heard it was, I know Slaves and Bulldozers was my favorite one, but that probably wasn't the single. Outshined was probably the single. And I had never heard anything like that. And from where we were living, and we could look up the time, but I want to say Bad Motorfinger was 91, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. So, I mean, I'd have been pretty young, maybe 12, 13 years old, I guess.
That's about the time, though.
I couldn't have been that young.
I could see, like, your uncle giving you to sample something from his heyday, which wasn't as extreme just because of its vintage in nature. You're striking out on your own and finding your own. You're going to naturally find heavier stuff because, I mean, the envelope is pushed over time no matter what. And I do remember MTV was such an integral part of our generation. That's where we got whatever was not on the radio, whereas before all we had as a child was our parents and their radio.
You can't just go walk to the record store.
No, I couldn't.
You're reliant on, and we lived out in the country, so a trip to what back then it would have been, I think that might have even been the first Chelsea's right off of Chime Street. There was a record store there. I know the name of it and everything, and it ain't going to come to me right now. But like a trip out there was kind of like, okay, get all the money you got because you're going to the big city of Baton Rouge.
You're going to land
get
something.
Some records, yeah. But aside from that, I had like, they had the Columbia Records thing, and I had like 17 different names. Like Joey Carbo, James Carver, John Johnson, whatever the fuck. So I just had everything that looked like, and I was a total nerd about it back then. Like I could tell you who produced this, who the mix engineer was, what studio they were in. Like all the liner notes were my favorite thing. Yes. And that's one of the biggest problems I have right now with what I guess I would miss about music is liner notes. There's no one even put, like in a real record, people don't really even do liner notes. Like I don't even want to just know that. I used to like that about the Soundgarden records too. You would get more of a sense of the band. Let's say, a record comes out and there's no direct credit given for anything. Like Butthole Surfers, you never even knew who was in the band. That was one of the ways that those guys kind of stepped on their dicks was later on, who are you? Oh, I was in the Butthole Surfers. Well, fucking prove it. Well, they would say it would be down to, with Soundgarden, you can see, okay, what's that instrument? Oh, that's a banjo, and the drummer played the banjo. And these are the songs that Cornell wrote. These are the songs that he wrote with this, and then it would give you a really full sense of the band. Then the next record comes out and you could say, oh, that's a Cornell song. Yeah. Or, that was a combination song. Yep. Like, same thing with Mastodon. You can kind of do that. You always know which songs are whose part, who wrote this part. You can kind of tell.
That, what always struck me as odd is, like, you've got sports fanatics, and they're interested in this person. He came from this college, and he went to this team for 2 years, and then they got traded to this team for 2 more years. Like, they follow their careers, and I'm like, I mean, fuck football. But then when it comes to musicians with the liner notes like you're talking about, I know where a certain musician went after he left this band, or I know why that band sounds similar to this band. What is it? It's the guitar. Let me go see who the guitarist was. Sure enough, motherfucker went from there to there, and like that makes me smile when that happens to me. Where I'm like, I knew it was that. You know what I'm saying? It's like I do have the ear, and there it is. You know, and I used to love doing that stuff, and it makes me wonder now these days what's going to happen to those little gems, because the liner notes were it. Like you're saying, you kind of had to take in every little morsel because it was all you were going to get. Whereas there's an oversaturation today, so it's kind of taken for granted. It's not the same thing.
And no one's going to look at a record anyway. You're
music videos too. Think about that. Like since the death of MTV, you brought up Soundgarden. I remember Black Hole Sun was an awesome video. It was like a tripped out video, and you wouldn't have been able to find that anywhere else if not for a music video. Right. You know what I mean? So those things were gems to us. I don't know what they are now. You know?
Yeah, and I mean it's not. Can you imagine the money and the fucking amount of people it took? You know, back then, all the gear you could think of as it's hardware, analog gear, whatever. And
they were bigger budgets, though. I would say, like you and I were talking before the film started. The death of labels is it's going to happen, right? And they're on their way right now, and so the budgets are shrinking. So you don't see super fantastic, or even mid-grade, like impressive music videos from indies unless it's the guys getting together to do it themselves on a shoestring because the labels are not sinking money into it. It's not like the 80s where you had fucking Ferraris and tits and hair this big and all this stuff. Like it's no more rock star, that kind of rock star, you know?
Yeah, and if you wanted to put Led Zeppelin in the desert, you had to go to the fucking desert.
Yeah.
Now you just go to a sound studio, you know, with the green screen. They're not green screens anymore, or whatever that is.
That begs the question, though. What do you think the Chili Peppers did? Where I knew the answer to this and I forgot. Where did they film? Do you remember? Anthony Kiedis. He's silver. He's completely silver.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
That
Power
was
of Equality?
probably Suck My Kiss video where he's
Might
silver.
have been Suck My Kiss.
Or
I can't
it could have
remember.
been. They did do a video for that Stevie Wonder song. Huh?
They had to. They probably went to somewhere out in Cali. Like there's deserts out in Cali. But it just made me think of that. As soon as you said desert, I was like, man.
Was it like the split screen one with like the dancing where they do the fucking?
I don't remember.
Like
I don't remember if they had the
Vishnu
split screen, but they were
shit,
They were in the damn desert. Like, that wasn't green screen. I don't think that was more prevalent back then. I think it was more prevalent now, like the faking it. Because for the reasons that we're talking about. You know? Yeah. Okay. So you're back to where we were. You're picking out your own music by way of Headbangers Ball and MTV. And you're getting all of those, which I did too from Columbia, but I only used my name once. You did it to the extreme. So you copped buku albums that way.
Yeah.
Did you get all of what you want? Because I remember when I did it, I had to choose enough to fill whatever the requirement was, 12 for a penny. Whatever.
Yeah, it didn't matter if you had 20. I just never paid, like, once I was
you paid
burnt,
the penny and then cancel.
I never paid them anything. You do the first, you just do the introductory offer, and then you chuck it and make another profile and just keep doing the introductory offers.
Gotcha.
I never went beyond that. I just never did my fulfillment portion.
Yeah. Was it all metal? Was it all genres? What were you doing?
Oh, anything that they had that I was interested in, and then like people that I would meet. I was always I think like a bottom line for me as far as going from something like Johnny Cash to heavier music, it's really just all down to like a heavy backbeat, the bass guitar being almost the loudest thing in the mix, and the song had to be sad. And sad,
okay.
And nothing else really. If it didn't fit those three things, it wouldn't register with me.
What was the sad element adding?
I don't know. It's the only way I can write, and it probably because the first interaction I had with music was a sad song the first time music made me really feel something was a sad song. Okay. So maybe, I don't know. This is like probably a psychiatrist couch type fucking question, but I don't know.
Yes and no. I'll tell you this. I was interviewing Kirk Winstein, Crowbar Down and all that stuff. He brought up the idea that heavy isn't found in the instrumentation or the distortion or any other things. Heavy is found, I don't remember how he phrased it, but basically in the sentiment of the lyrics.
The emotional content.
Right, the emotional content that is born out of kind of the lyrics and the imagery that protrudes from it. I don't know how to put it into words really.
He does. He's always he's really good at summing shit up.
That's to the point, man. Yeah. Very succinct, but that's where the heaviness comes from. So, and I brought that up to another guy. I was interviewing Johnny LaGrange, and he pointed out how heavy orchestral music can be.
Yeah.
Symphonies and
especially
such.
in person.
Yeah. So we kind of find a depth of feeling from elements that are outside of the traditional or the most obvious, I would say, which is, where's your distortion and where's your...
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It doesn't need those elements to be heavy. Those are frequently found with it, but you found it in whatever had that sad content.
Yeah, you're right. And I never even put it together as closely as you're saying, and it's something that I've thought about a lot. I've been asked about a whole lot, but and I think about it a lot. But it was maybe the extremity of the feeling, not the sonically. It was certainly that was a part of it.
Sure,
but it's not like what Lady Gaga probably has a strong backbeat and some sad word. I wouldn't fucking know, but. It's not. There's going to be an element of that, the style as well. But
sure.
Yeah, I think maybe the intensity, like same thing with books or TV. Like it's like horrible shit. Like my like if I'm sleeping, my earbuds will fall out, or like my wife's not in bed, so I'll just be listening to it out loud, and then she'll come to bed, or she'll be asleep, and she'll wake up, and she's like, "How do you sleep listening to shit about serial killers?" It's like, I mean, it's interesting. What do you mean?
Yeah.
But it's not, I don't know. I guess I don't put a huge distinction between disturbing and interesting. Like, I'm not a fucking sociopath. I get that things are disturbing. Like, I'm not interested. Like, it's not like, and I'm not down with anyone, but like a grindcore type extremity. Like, I'm not talking about that.
Right.
I'm just talking about strong emotions, not extremes of emotions.
Yeah.
So I don't want to give the wrong idea of what I'm saying.
Were you able, when you were getting all the Columbia stuff, were you able to, I guess, match up or seek out bands that you had read about? So did you get did you already know the backstory and order the album because you read about the backstory in a magazine or something?
I would do it by studio and a lot of times by producer also.
Nice.
If I liked the producer, I would find, and I'm sure that happened a lot with Ruben, because he's been all over the place as far as production goes. So for a while, I would just follow him as a producer. Mm-hmm. I would find a lot of garbage too, or to me it was garbage, but like that. And then like I would notice that Animals would come up a lot. Certain studios would come up a lot with certain kinds of bands. Yeah. I wasn't old enough to understand like, okay, that's a region of the, I mean, I probably was old enough, maybe just not smart enough to realize, okay, well, that's in Seattle, and that's where all these motherfuckers live, and so that's why they go to this place. But I would just say all these bands end up going to this studio.
It's a guiding light to you, because you end up with similar genres, similar. I mean, engineering can totally change the sound of an album. Mm-hmm. So you were, you were onto something.
And I wanted to know why. Okay, so if these three bands that I really like all seem to be drawn to go and record in this same studio, then let me find out what else that they do over there. And so
how old are you?
We're talking about early teens, if not before I was 13. Oh, I'm sure before I was 13, definitely.
That shit didn't occur to me. It has now. Like, I love going to dig for records.
Yeah.
Crate digger. I love going to dig for records, and that's mainly how I'll do it. If I don't recognize any of the guys that are in the band, then I'm looking to see what studio or who produced it, because you get to know the taste of a certain producer, and you're like, I trust his judgment. Let me see what these guys are about. It's stuff like that. But that didn't occur to me when I was a kid. You were young for that to have occurred.
I mean, I guess it was all I was thinking about too, so that made it easy. I've always been pretty like I'll get fascinated with something and I have to go all the way, and then I might leave it behind, and it's like, okay, I learned how to do this, whatever it would be, bookbinding once. I got into bookbinding and I took it as far as you could go, and I was really into fucking bookbinding. Now, I'm not talking about like this wasn't just some random shit in high school. I was probably in my late 20s or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so I'll do it today. I'll just get a hold of something, fuck with it for a year, I feel like I've taken it as far as I can, and lose interest and go on to something else. But music, aside from when I was much younger, all I want to do is draw pictures, and I would just sit on the floor for as many hours as you could give me, and I would just draw But then when it switched over to music, it was all I ever thought about. I was really singular minded.
Yeah.
So yeah, if there was information, I was gonna find it if I needed it, some kind of way. But
how is it if you're such like a nomad when it comes to interest? How is it that music stuck all the way back since?
I don't know, especially not having much success
pre-teens
with it. Right. Oh yeah. I mean, before that, like I would make up. I remember singing songs like to my little brother in the bathtub. So if you're in the bathtub with your little brother, you're a toddler.
Yeah.
And I can remember like making up songs. Now, as far as that goes, it could have been something I heard on the radio that day, and then it was like, okay, but I thought I was making up songs.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been around for whatever made it happen. It's just always been around, and I probably should have quit a long time ago. But I don't.
Hasn't occurred to you yet.
It hasn't.
Well, you can't quit now because I'm generating media from this, and you're gonna make me look like an ass because I'll be like, look at this guy that no longer does this thing. Isn't this great?
All right, well, I'll keep going.
Thank you, for the love of Dave.
I got you. Bro.
So, your interest was obvious. Your interest was long-standing by the time you were a teenager.
Yeah.
When do you start with instruments?
See, that would have been 9th grade of high school, so like 13 or 14, and I had a little Casio keyboard, and I don't remember where I got it or anything, but it sampled, and it would do sample loops, and I think it was like 6 seconds, 7 seconds, or something like that. Yeah. Ironically, this just came up with a friend of mine. He was remembering something. The keyboard's literally like this big.
Yeah.
He sent me a picture, and now they're like $400, and this was like a $30 Casio or whatever. And he sent me the picture. It's exactly the same one, but on the bottom it had a tiny little hole, and you could get a flat blade screwdriver in there, and it was a pitch control.
Nice.
So it was used to fine tune the keyboard, but it could also be used to completely fucking destroy it.
Yeah.
So I would do that, and then I got a bass from somewhere. I know I took some percussion shit from the high school band room or whatever. So it was all pawn shop, like cobbledick type stuff, and just collecting, whatever I could get. There was no money for going and buying a guitar and lessons and all that kind of shit. So I just sort of slowly put it together, and I was the guy who just went to my friends and said, like, hey, there's a band, like there's gonna be a band, so learn to play drums, like that kind of thing.
What I mean, most people's story is that initially I picked up this, or initially I picked up that. Like it starts with a instrument, but it sounds like for you that wasn't the case at all.
And it's still not. I don't even wouldn't even call myself a guitar player. I don't call myself a guitar player because for me the record, the end result is what I'm after. That's why I learned audio production. That's why I have a studio, and making records is still the best part of it to me, and it always was. So as opposed to a guy who sat down and he only played guitar and it's all he ever practiced. So yeah, you're going to become a shredder. It's not me. I'm focused on writing words, like I'll do a lot of research for lyrics. I take it really seriously. Mm-hmm. Even the goofy shit, like with WOORMS, it might seem like it's goofy or it has a stupid title. I'm not just pissing, like I'm taking my time with it. So my skill set, or at least the skill being the word, I guess, but my set of abilities is more wide ranging. I never sat down and said I'm gonna be a guitar player and I'm gonna learn how to play this fucking solo to Eruption or whatever it is. And I never had that interest. It was just like as soon as I get to where I can make music, I'm good, and now I need to learn how to do this next thing because I need to know how microphones work and I need to know how the fuck they made this kick drum sound like, and so I just kind of all over the place. So no, I never sat down with one thing. And then as far as like even singing, I learned to play bass and sing at the same time. So now I never have a problem playing and singing anything at the same time because I didn't know how to play bass and I didn't know how to sing. So I just started doing them both at the same time. Yeah. So now I can do that. And then eventually just moved on to guitar because I was more interested in it or whatever, or else it was a bigger part of the songwriting process than bass. I really don't know. But I didn't have a huge plan. I never said I'm going to be a guitar player. I just said I'm going to make records.
Right. It was a means to an end. Yep. All of that is probably why you have not lost interest in music in all this time, because there's so many facets. There's so many different shoes to fill, you know?
Yeah.
So many different hats that you have to wear to accomplish the end result, though.
And it all interests me. I used to hate recording myself because and I still don't love it, because there's a separation in. Same thing with like when you don't get a good sound check like hours ahead of the show and you just do a line check and you play. It's if I've got to set up shit and I have to use this side of my brain, then in an instant switch over to the other side of the brain and do another thing. That's hard to do, and each side is going to suffer. Each aspect's going to suffer. So there's certain parts of the recording process, if I don't separate myself from it, then it's not going to work. Yeah. So I liked, even when I could do it, I'll record other people, but I wouldn't record myself, because it was, part of it was kind of felt like a, how can I put it, like there wasn't going to be an objective eye in the room. Mm-hmm. And then part of it was, I've got to think about this job. I can't be thinking about where this fucking microphone is. But then it gets to a point where you know how you want to do it, and you've watched other people do it, and you learn tricks or whatever, and then so you go with someone else and they're not doing the things that you know what the end result's going to be. Yeah. Now they're way better at it. You know, it's a dude who does it for a living or whatever, but you get more comfortable in your own ways. And then there's certain things, it's like, you know, I'm going to record my own guitars now, and I'll go to someone for drums. And then you get to where it's, you know, I can record drums now, you know, a certain kind of, you know. I
got to ask, you mentioned something about the psychiatrist couch. Do you find that you are any bit of a control freak?
It's gotten better.
Okay. So the answer is yes, but with a caveat.
Yeah, as I've gotten older and have a modicum of self-control, I can catch myself doing it and back off. But there's certain things where it's just not. It's not a question. It's what's going to happen. This is what I'm in control of.
Well, I mean, you can justify it so many different ways, but it falls under the saying, like, if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. Yeah. There's a reason. You know what I'm saying? It's not just a personality flaw or some shit. It's something that works well for you that didn't just occur to you overnight. It's through so many different missteps where you're like, you know what, I'll just do it myself next time. Like, you learned it that way, you know?
Yeah, and I don't think I'm that kind of person, but more like in the creative process or with WOORMS, a decade ago, I would have told someone, if they tried to add or anything about my song or change something, that was completely fucking out of the question. I gave you the music, play the fucking music. Yeah. Nowadays, it's, you know, I'm completely different about it. If someone has an idea, then I'm all over it. I want to know. I want you to be comfortable. I want you to play like yourself. I want you to, you know, we work within the parameters of what this band's supposed to be, because you can't just fucking do anything. But within those parameters, once you're comfortable, I want you to be you. I want the person to play like them. Whereas I felt like, 15 years ago, whatever, I was way more self-serving, and I felt like there was this grand artistic vision that if it wasn't realized, then it was all fucked, you know. And I don't feel that level of control is necessary anymore. Yeah. And if if I look back at it, it suffered. The work itself suffered from being unwilling to take anyone else's point of view.
I mean, you're able to see that now, but what made you loosen the reins, so to speak? Like, what made you relax a little bit?
Probably not drinking so much, but I think getting older. Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, I just calm down a little bit every year. I think everyone does, but yeah. Honestly, I don't. Maybe interactions where I was coming across as a person I didn't want to come across as, and a person that I really wasn't, and then, you know, maybe where I would hear that so-and-so said, actually Miguel said it, you know, I always heard you were really hard to work with. And then Aaron's like, you heard he was, you know, like, the motherfucker's hard to work with. And Miguel's like, dude, I worked with a lot of people. This is one of the easiest guys I've ever worked with. And Aaron's just like, fucking whatever, bro, you know?
That's funny.
But he's been around longer, so yeah, maybe I'm easier to work with now than even 5 years ago. I don't know.
Are you the type of person that a comment like that can stick with you the rest of the day.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm the same. I'm the same.
Because and especially if you give me a specific incidents. So I'm not the kind of person, no matter what happens or how strongly I feel about something, I'm never gonna say that's 100% not my fault. Because nothing's gonna happen in a vacuum. Yeah, there's part of it, whether you want to or not, you're gonna have to take some fucking responsibility because you were there too.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if that's not what you meant to do. The way that person perceived it, that's reality. And if nothing else, at least for that person and for every other person that trusts that person. So if someone says, yeah, it was at so-and-so place and they asked you to turn this down and you turned it up instead, or, whatever, and then I'll think back and it's like, man, I actually had nothing against that dude. I don't know why I did that.
Yeah. Hey, have you heard about Neworleansmusicians.com? It's a place where articles, music videos, interviews, and streaming music from Louisiana musicians can be found. Fans can join free. Music business professionals can join free too. And Louisiana musicians can join for free as well. It's also the place where Louisiana bands go to network and get free promotion. We've definitely got plenty, like this band. Check them out. You definitely have to monitor yourself, and that's not, I don't think that comes natural to anyone that still has some maturing to do. Do you know what I mean? When we're all, perhaps you could simplify it by saying, or oversimplify it by saying, we're all doers and speakers when we're coming up, and then finally we have enough sense in us to like shut up and listen, you know what I'm saying? So I get it. And I also get the other aspect of that because I know, like in an environment where I am, in an industrial environment, I could call that thing what it literally is, what the proper term is for it, and nobody around me is going to know what I'm talking about because I didn't use the slang term. Now you have to ask yourself, do you want to be right or do you want to be understood? You know what I'm saying? So right in your mind and understood in others, you got to find kind of a compromise between the two, and that's where you can only do that if you're starting to make yourself listen a little more, or back off a little more, or relax a little more. You know what I'm saying? Like being open to the idea of, like, all right, man, it's a D-ring, it's not a conniption pin, or whatever the hell it is. You know what I'm saying? So because I would rather be understood than be right. Now, if you just want to be right, then you are a dick. You know what I'm saying? So there's a difference there.
And there's definitely a side of me that I cannot deny. And the further you go back in years, the worse I was.
Sure.
And I think part of it is not like I'm saying it's maturity. It's you're covering way more ground. It's not just maturity, but it's every mistake you make. If you've got enough emotional intelligence, you're only, fucking up is a good thing if you have enough emotional intelligence to realize it for what it is and to see what you did.
Yep.
But then I think a lot of it can come from being around, and I think a lot of it with me too, was only being around people who think that everything that comes out of your mouth is important, or that or even in your own mind, whatever I have to say out loud is going to be important because I want to say it.
Yeah.
And letting go of that, to me, I think it's getting older and the ego of your 20s and 30s kind of dropping back. And I realized, like, hey, this fucking guy, like, who's buying a shirt in Memphis, like, he doesn't want to hear, some random shit, whatever it is that I might think is important. And there's a lot more listening to be done that I'm not doing.
Yeah.
There's a lot, I could learn a lot more by listening and then not being around the same 10 people who think that everything I have to say is funny because I've known them for this long. But I can't go around treating everyone like they're going to think everything I say is cool.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I've always thought of myself as a person that was quick to size people up and fairly accurate in doing that.
Yeah.
And I guess that comes from like running the streets a lot. But what it allowed me to realize is that you could spit gold to somebody if it's on the person that is closed-minded, or the person that's too ignorant to understand it, or the person that's too lazy to put it to good use, you're wasting your breath. You just spit gold, but it was wasted breath. You know what I'm saying? So you could have important shit to say. It might be the other person that's just not willing to accept that here, that, or, you know, you don't know. But in realizing that there's some disconnect there and not placing blame, you're okay to just let it go. And that part of relaxing, like you say, I think is super valuable. Like, it's super valuable to your state of mind, your constitution. You know what I'm saying? Because you could beat yourself till you're blue in the face, like, preaching to everybody, and if they don't march, then you're gonna be like, fuck y'all. But maybe they were like, why are you so serious? We're just here to have a good time, you know?
No, in my case, it's just talking too much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so you've stuck with the same thing for a while, and I guess we should go back to what preceded Worms. Like, what was your first music venture with a group? Because you're right now at the point where you're accumulating all these instruments for a big picture, but you're not forming a band yet.
So I pretty much went from the very first thing was, I swear to God, you don't learn an instrument and then you start a band. You start a band so you can figure out how to play an instrument. And that's literally the order I did it in.
Is that what people say, or that's what you did?
No, that's what I'm saying. Right? It's just what I did and shouldn't have done. I'm saying that's a completely ass backwards way to do it. But
gotcha.
But no, that was more as soon as the idea came into my head, or as soon as I wasn't even that, it was more like once I realized this is what I'm going to do, you know, one way or another, this is what I'm going to do. Once I realized that, it wasn't like, okay, get really good at guitar, then maybe some people will want to play with you, you know, then you could get in a band. No, you just make a fucking band, and then that's all you got to do. The rest of it will take care of itself, because the only thing that really matters is you're going to make some music.
Yeah.
So no, I just went to my friends. I knew one guy who played guitar. We're still best friends. And we still make music together. He was the only person I knew. There was one other guy before him, and I was younger, and he could play guitar, and so I played with him. And I had a friend who eventually became a competent drummer, but we started out just like, I had like a snare drum and a crash, and then like, you know, we would do what we could do with that. And then I was in a band with floor tom, snare, and one cymbal, and then all three of us would rotate instruments, but you stood up and you played the drums. And
so the three of y'all are going at this the same way, where you're just making...
I don't know what the other guys had in mind, because number one, I was so young, and then also I think I was kind of just, I don't want to say bossing people around, but it was more like not something that... I went to them and said, hey, let's do this sort of thing. Now, there was the couple of guys that I'm talking about, like, they were already interested in music, but I brought people in, like the one, he had no interest in playing drums and no idea that he was going to do so until I asked him to do it so we could make music.
Yeah.
And
even with know-how, you only had one guy that was playing any instrument before.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was just playing.
And he was still willing to just switch?
Yeah, apparently. It was not saying it was very good or anything.
I mean, you don't find
it was
that
all
too often.
really, I guess I do. We're not talking about a high level of skill for
Well, sure.
This was just trashy rock and roll back then. It was,
I should ask, what kind of...
Yeah, that was like, trying to think of something to compare it to now, but it was just really, really just dingy rock and roll, like the worst sounding guitar you could get on purpose so that everything was like... You know, like that sort of rock and roll, sort of just really trashy sound. So you record on 4-track for a reason, so it sounds like with music under it. You know, intentionally. And so I kind of did step out of order. So before that, I was sitting in my bedroom with my keyboard and my bass and whatever I had, and I made tapes, just tons and tons and tons of tapes. And some of my friends asked, you know, like, hey, do you want to listen to this stack of tapes from when you were like 13? It's, God damn, no, I don't. But I don't have all these things anymore. People do. But yeah, I started out that way. So I did know a little something. I would make up all these tapes and just make the music. And eventually, I guess I wanted to do it outside of my bedroom.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got some friends to do it. And then by the time I went off to be a grown-up, I'd have been about 17.
Made it sound like you're marching off to war.
Yeah,
which it is,
yeah,
right?
I did, right. Probably about 17.
I got drafted into adulthood.
My first band would have been like 9th grade in high school, probably, and then I had a band. And that was more like I said, like I guess I wanted to be, you know, Sonic Youth or Sebado or something, you know. And then then there was the hardcore thing, which I feel like everyone is still doing now. And so I did like shredded screaming over heavy, like really mathy music. It's similar to the mathy part to what WOORMS does now. Lost my train of thought for a second.
Well, I was gonna stop you anyway. What do you mean by mathy?
Oh, like fucking with time signatures.
Okay.
Or not, like WOORMS will do like several time signatures in a song, or certain things that aren't even a time signature, because all you're doing is, like in country music, it's called tagging a line. So you play there's a part of the song, and if you repeat it, because I could show you, but you tag the line, you play it one more time, and then that's the resolve. So what I'll do a lot of times is, here's your riff. Well, then just take a section of that riff out, and it doesn't have a beginning and it doesn't have an end. So you just put it over here where the end would be. So you're playing da na 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 na, but then you just take the one of the na-nas and you double it up, and then you put another one here. So now you have a riff that makes no fucking sense until you play drums to it. It's not a time signature in and of itself. It's just a warped thing.
Yeah.
So then instead of 4, you've got 4 half back to 4, you know, whatever it is. So that's what I'm talking about. But there was this whole thing, like late 90s, early 2000s, I guess. So bands would do straight up math, and that I never did that. And then straight up math would be like, okay, let's play through every time signature starting at 2-2, and let's have a song that goes through every one, like stuff like that. And these kids would do, you know, we'd play with math bands, and it would blow your mind, some of the stuff they would do, but you could take it so far that it wasn't really fun anymore. It was, you know, it was just like, look what I can
irritating.
do.
You at least even you just
counting,
now mentioned resolve. Like all you're doing is creating tension throughout the whole thing, and there's no fucking you know, it's gonna be okay. No, it's just
it never happens.
On your ass. That's a bit much. And it's an experiment, but it's a bit much.
Yeah. So I was doing that, and then that kind of, everyone's still doing the completely fried screaming thing, and as much as people don't want to hear me say this.
Part of years are we talking about?
We're talking about, so I graduated high school in 96.
Okay. Well, so, like, that wasn't too far off the mark for the sound that you were going for, because grunge was like...
Yeah. That would have been when I was 13, 14, probably starting maybe
so,
a little younger.
You wanted the clinky guitars like you're talking about, and the line noise or the tape noise. You wanted all of that shit that was popular back then.
Yeah, and then I got a little older, like after I was done intentionally trying to sound like shit because of certain bands, then I went back to Soundgarden, and I started playing mesas so I could sound like the way the Soundgarden guitars, you know, the way the guitars sounded.
Okay.
And so I got more into that. But I used to hate heavy bands with clean singing. Not hate, but it wasn't my thing. And now I prefer that. Like if they're screaming, I need to be able to pick out who the screamer, who the vocalist is. Yeah. And sometimes that's what I have a problem with. And it's probably an unpopular thing to say, but you can take Mike Williams, for instance. You can put him on anyone's record, and you'll know it's Mike Williams because there's a characteristic to the singing. Randy Blythe, same thing. You know you're listening to Randy Blythe scream.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of bands, you could take the singers and switch them around, and not even their most ardent fucking fan would have a clue.
That's a producer not doing his job, though, don't you think?
I don't know. Is it that, or
is it mixing engineer?
Is it? No, because I'm gonna sound bitter if I start talking about all that. But
talking about, you feel like it's... Yeah.
You can't do anything with that.
Okay, I get that, but there's also the element of not allowing that person's traits to shine because of your shitty mix. But I get what you're saying. You're saying that there are a lot of people that kind of similarities you're talking about.
They're intentionally doing this monotone thing, and it sounds
grunt scream.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the person doing it or a lack of skill in the person doing it. It's a style they're going for that, to me, because there's no distinguishable characteristic there, it doesn't land with me. That's all.
Well, who was the guiding light for you in like '96? You were talking about when y'all were fucking with all these time signatures and stuff. There wasn't many people doing that. You mentioned we talked about Rush before we started recording, I think, and I mean, maybe you could say them or
like it could have stuck. I never
maybe
liked
Def Leppard, like one song or something. Like who's doing that?
I wouldn't have listened to that, but
who's doing that to make you
Soundgarden for
pursue
sure.
that?
Soundgarden's timings are fucked, man. There's some to this day. I've probably listened to Bad Motorfinger 900,000 times. Like I used to listen to that record once a week for decades. It was just something I always I don't know. I'm kind of like that anyway, but it was just one of those things. Like I'll read a book and once a year I'll read it again, just to go back to that place. So there's songs on there that I've yet to figure out exactly what's going on time-wise.
Yeah.
So I would think a lot of it from there, if you give me some time, I could come up with some other ones.
Sure.
But there were crazy hardcore bands doing, like The Locusts. I love those guys. I still love like everything that Justin Pearson does. Dude's so cool, man. But that kind of stuff, and then a lot of the a lot of influence probably came from traveling around watching what other bands did in other cities. And there were bands like out of like Gainesville was big then, and there was lots of crazy bands coming out of there, West Coast bands like Spaz and because his hero is gone. There was some crazy off-kilter shit in there, but I don't know.
So you're traveling at this time for the band?
Yeah, not
in
like
'96.
Yeah, let's see. So I graduated in '96. I would have already done a couple of little runs like South Coast or whatever. So nothing like nothing, like a skate park in fucking Biloxi or something.
Okay.
Like you'd go do that and then hit Lafayette on the way home.
We might have skipped like a small moment in time back then because I didn't realize it had graduated to that. Because remember last we were speaking, you were assembling the guys and you had a few instruments and stuff.
Yeah, I'm terrible at this chronological thing.
It's hard to do. I mean, I want so much to just keep walking with you, you know what I'm saying? But I got to piece things together.
Yeah, we'd be here all night too.
For post, But so you had progressed to that point. At the point at which you started to tour, were you committed to any one instrument? Was anybody in your band committed to one instrument?
Yeah.
And how many pieces are we talking? What's the band name?
It was always 3. I don't think I was actually, aside from, and so I'm gonna jump around in time again, but when Ben joined WOORMS was only the second time I've ever been in a band that had 2 guitar players. And I was only not a guitar player in a band for the first band I was in, which we played like LSU Amphitheater or something like that, whatever shows we could get. Probably did a handful of them, like in someone's backyard for a party or some shit. So there's the extent of that. I played bass then. Anything that was more serious to the point of like, hey, I got to get a car that all this shit fits in so we can go play somewhere. Then I was playing guitar by then.
Okay.
And then, usually it was 3 guys. And then, so that would have been more of like the hardcore, late 90s hardcore type thing.
What was the band name?
2000. That band would have been, before that, the band where we stood up and all that was the Eastern Bloc. And then Encompass and Stalemate was the band that I did probably the most stuff with earlier, like as far as hardcore stuff. And then that was around the time of... So the guy Steven, he's in Radiant Knife now. He had Radon Kong. His band then was Ice Pick Revival, and I still remember it was my favorite band to play shows with. And like I learned a lot watching the way those guys play. Yeah. Now that we talk about that, they did a lot of crazy time signature shit. But all 3 of the guys, Ryan Pankratz, Brett. He lives in Scott, Louisiana, and Steven lives in Lafayette, I believe. They're just all 3 like separately just these amazing musicians, and they would write some pretty wild shit, and I probably stole a lot of ideas from them. They were way heavier than us, but as far as the doing little tricky shit, I'm sure that soaked in, and watching a lot of other bands do it. But that one, and we did little traveling here and there, and then after that I went kind of the other direction and started playing quieter music. Like sometimes they were technically country songs and more rock and roll, but with a lot of noise. And there were 2 guitar players, but we were always trading. Like if I wrote the song, then I was playing acoustic on it and singing it, playing rhythm and singing it. If he wrote the song, that's what he was doing, and I was playing the electric. And then like he would play electric lead on the ones that I wrote, and then there was a violinist, bassist, drummer, and we rolled like that. So that after that was the last time I had another guitarist in the band until Ben.
What was the name of that? Because you cycled through, I don't know if it was 2 names or 3.
Yeah, that's the part that's Encompass and Stalemate. That's one band. So
okay, that's one.
Yeah, Encompass like Surround.
Gotcha.
And Stalemate. So yeah, that was that band. And then Who by Fire was the more rock and roll country type band. Then I was in a band really shortly called Dope Deal, and that's like extremely heavy and some of the most fried screaming, which I don't really do anymore. I've done it on the WOORMS records, and I'll do it. I find it harder as I get older. I've lost a little upper register in my scream, and I can't quite get it to break up as much. But I think the more that I learn about singing, the more I forget, and some of the shit I was doing wrong was what made me sound like me, and now I've lost it.
Gotcha.
And it bothers me, but Miguel, who's classically trained, he's like, your voice is getting better all the time. But in my mind, it's not. It's like I sound less like myself all the time. And then I worry, like, man, on this next record, am I going to be able to fucking do that? Like, I already can't hit that note I hit on the last record, and that, like, stuff like that. But
that's a weird one, man. I don't know. I brought him up earlier talking to you before we started recording. Jason Pilgrim, Flesh Parade. One of the gems I got out of him was vocal care during the course of the interview. And he was talking about oil of oregano, and he's also talking about not using lemon juice is not good. These different things. So I say that to kind of point out that, number one, kudos for kind of reinventing yourself in the correct way, as far as how you sing. It sounds like you're shedding a past that was not conducive to a future. Because if you're doing something the wrong way, you might hurt yourself.
And that's probably what happened.
But I mean, there are things as far as present day goes to maintain those octaves that you wish to reach that maybe you could. Do you do anything like that? Like oil of oregano. What the hell? I never heard of that before.
That kind of shit. No,
is there anything that you've ever looked into to try and help that?
No, and then like on the road, if you're smart, you don't talk all day long. And
gotcha.
You'd have to put fucking tape over my mouth. Especially, like you're there with like the group of dudes that are like the guys that you'd rather hang out with than anyone else, really. Because I mean, it's a lot of guys are in bands with people they don't particularly care for, even, or just that they don't socialize or whatever. Yeah. And I don't understand how people can do that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're just showing up for a gig and you're making money and it's a hired gun type thing, whatever. But I'm not that kind of player. But no, to be stuck in a car with someone for all that time and not to be friends would be strange to me. So no, I'm just talking shit all day long, and I'm probably ruining my voice. But I do have a couple little tricks that I was taught by the very limited vocal coaching that I've had, or lessons I took or whatever. The one that I liked was taking a straw, and I did find out I had to cut it kind of short and put it in your mouth, and you and it's supposed to, I forget now, but anyway, if my voice is feeling particularly worn out or not strong, I'll walk around outside the venue or whatever for an hour and just blow it in the straw. And it's something to do with it's a warm-up exercise.
No
I don't
shit.
even remember all the details. Yeah, but you just put a straw in your mouth, and there's a particular way you blow through it, or that you hum across it or something. And that was supposed to help. That was one of the ones that stuck with me and did actually help.
It did help.
Yeah, and it felt a little better, and it would give me some vocal strength. But as far as the like drinking honey and all that kind of stuff, I never really tried it.
Well, now others out there know that they have an excuse for why they shortcut straws hanging around all the time.
Yeah, that's it.
Vocal care, you dumbass.
Yeah, right.
You newbie.
It's that, and so I can smell my baby powder to make sure it's gonna work.
Yeah, that's
my
funny.
socks later on.
No, I mean that's cool. I've never heard that before. So you're touring around, and what is the organization? Because you and I were speaking of what WOORMS is now, with this other band or back then in your life. What was there any eye on the business side of music?
No, I didn't even. I didn't do well. I didn't do well with that at all. There was nothing. It was just go out there, spend every fucking dollar you make if you do.
Yeah.
You know, I never paid attention to it. And then like with WOORMS, I do a much better job. Like the marketing aspect, the design aspect, trying to keep everything flowing towards one brand, like you were saying earlier. And back then it was just music, you know, like the rest of it would take care of itself, and I really didn't have a mind towards that. I guess I had the feeling that that's someone else's job, and once I get to the point where someone pays attention to me, to what I'm doing, then someone will take care of that part.
Right, you get to a certain level and then you hire somebody.
Yeah, because like someone that's our age, when you grew up with the idea that, well, I just have to get to a record company and then it's over with, that everything's done and it's taken care of.
Yeah.
But, you know, now I realize that whole part is just as important. You got to make room for that. So no, I was shit at it back then.
How are you getting along
now? I'm doing pretty good.
No, not now. Back then, how were you managing?
Oh.
Like, how were you getting gigs? Did y'all have merch? Like, what was anybody doing?
Shit, back then, I mean, we're talking about when you still had to pull over and use payphones and like have a road map in the glove box, you know?
You hear that?
So it would be, you know, spiral bound notebook. Your friends that were in other bands would get you shows like in their town.
Yeah.
So you would leave the house with a little spiral bound notebook that had physical directions to everywhere you were driving. And I would get the shows like that, and then sit down and just basically this friend would get this friend or get this friend.
Nice.
And then you'd show up, and then we used to have there was a punk house on off of Chimes, and they would run, it was like 200 foot of extension cords from a dorm room down to this busted out house that, you know, we would politely wake up the gentleman who slept in this house and, you know, give him a couple quarts of beer to go hang out outside so we could have a show, you know?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. You'd show up and it might be a autonomous vegetarian collective, and they would have a big garden in the back, and they wouldn't let you bring your alcohol in the house, and you had to go drink in the van if you wanted to drink. And,
wow.
You know,
y'all had discipline back then.
No, I wasn't in any of that.
Okay.
That was the scene, man. But like,
I got you.
Yeah, you show up in
No. I mean, like for you to tolerate that as a band, I guess you wanted it to some degree.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They were, and they were. You know, it was still a community. They were just a little bit different fringe of it, you know, than us. But
networking was just showing up.
And that's the other thing about this kind of music, man. Like I was talking about the playing more rock and roll and just more like the other band that I was in. That, and it could just be my experience, but bands like that, your success is my failure. The more of it success is a zero-sum thing. The more of it you get, the less there is for me to get. In heavy music, there's none of that. Everyone pushes everyone else up. Yeah. Everyone will help you. That's not all music. Scenes are not like, genres are not like that, not at all.
Yeah, I suppose. I know that I frown upon it, and I know a lot of people that frown upon it, but there is like some naysayers and haters out there, but for the most part, it's kind of like a pit where everybody's bouncing around, and if somebody falls, you get picked back up type of thing. So that's super cool. What was your goal, just to get out and play shows, or did you have a bigger picture in mind?
At first, it was only to make records, and I wanted to play shows. I was really excited about that. Like, you watch live videos, and you know, you're a 14-year-old kid, and you just, you know, that's all you want to do. Get there. Yeah, but it was already important to me to make records, and that was always, and still is, my favorite part, and that was always the funnest part. So no, I just wanted to get to where I could make as many records as I wanted and make them the way that I wanted to make them. And I figured going out and playing was the way to do that. But I also did just want to go out and play. I enjoy shows. I still do really like playing shows. There's times where I'd rather be doing something else, like, and then it's kind of and it's a spoiled brat sort of thing, I guess, in a way. But like, if you ask me if I would rather play the opening slot of a fucking outdoor festival at 3 p.m. in the hot sun in front of 17 people because no one's there yet, or go sit on the fucking couch and watch X-Files, like, there's maybe I'm not the best musician when it comes to, I should just go do the fucking thing. But and I do it anyway. But
but I mean, how much of that did you do coming up that you kind of
still do?
Right. Well, I mean, you kind of earned your stripes, so to speak. You know? So
right.
It's less essential at this point in your life.
At this time I can say no, if and not because we're making money. It's not that. It's just that I don't fucking have to.
Yeah.
I'm a big boy and I can say no now.
Yeah. I got you.
Fuck it. But
so what was the I guess the height of that band, the Encompassing?
Encompass and Stalemate.
And Stalemate.
Yeah. No, I don't know that there was a high point. Let me see.
Or like, what level did it get to?
That was the first time I worked with a record label at all. And it was, we went to, it's called it's living room, that's the other, I think it's the Jam Room. His name is, fuck, this is like stuff that's been in my head I can tell you as soon as the camera's off. That was in Columbia, South Carolina.
Okay.
And they brought us to Savannah. I think the label was in Savannah. The Jam Room. It's called the Jam Room. And the dude's name almost came to my mind when I wasn't thinking about it. He was in Columbia. The label was in Savannah. There was a lady. Her name was Victoria Scalisi. Her art name was Victoria, and she did all these paintings. And like, she was sort of a go-to for band cover art and stuff like that, like around that time. She was in a band called Dammit or Damad, depending on where you're from, is what I've heard, is how they said they used to like to enjoy traveling around and hear how different people pronounce it in different states. Yeah. We always said Damad, I think, and then when we got there, she actually called her band Dammit. But
maybe
anyway,
it's Spice, who knows?
So she's and she was in another band. Philip Cope was in that band, and she was in another band with Philip Cope right before that. That was, I don't know why I can't think of it, what it is right now. But so we got mixed up with all those guys who were light years beyond what we were doing, especially at that age. We'd have been 18, 19, 20.
Okay.
And, well, I've been a little older than that. By the time we went to record in that studio, I would have been 22 to 23 years old.
Okay.
And so we went and did that. Dude's name almost Mathiasen, Jay Mathiasen.
I was about to say you're remembering everybody else around his name, and not his name.
He's still there.
Gotcha.
And he's been recording. He records a bunch of really good bands. There's still cool shit going on. So yeah, to me, and it was just a CD that came out, but like we had, I thought I had a record deal. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So yeah, get that and going to get to play with those bands and go to that studio and stuff like that at that age. To go to a nice legit studio and get to travel to go do it. As far as the best things out of that band, that's what comes to mind is doing that.
Gotcha.